everyone, in this video I am going to talk about the use of specific adjectives and words for your 5 senses that you can use in your essays, especially your descriptive essays. So, number 1, words to describe something pleasing to your eyes, something pleasing to your eyes. Number 1, obviously, beautiful. Number 2, gorgeous. She wore a gorgeous dress, or she looked gorgeous in the party. Marvelous. Marvelous can be many things, anything that is very grand and pleasing to your eyes. The room was marvelously decorated. It's a very good example of the usage of the word marvelous. And then you have dazzling. She wore such a dazzling gown, something that sparkles and dazzles you. Alluring is something that attracts you, something that is so pleasing to the eyes that it attracts you, something very glamorous and attractive. And then you have fascinating. When you're extremely intrigued at the sight of something, it fascinates you. And then you have mesmerizing, which is also used to describe the beauty of something, the beauty of a person or the beauty of a scenery. It was a mesmerizing sunset. So you can use the word mesmerizing there. But do not use these words for food, okay? Food cannot be mesmerizing, food cannot be gorgeous or, ravishing. Ravishing is also a word that you use to describe the appearance of a person who is very, very attractive, who is looking very, very attractive. A small child can be cute, adorable. A building can be grand and magnificent. A lady can be graceful, elegant, lovely, refined, which means sophisticated, and charismatic. Charismatic means someone who is very, very charming, someone who has a lot of charisma. So, charismatic. Lovely, refined, elegant, graceful, charismatic. Elegant also means beautiful, but in a very sophisticated way. Not in a tacky way, but in a sophisticated, refined way. Now, what are the words that you can use to describe something that is unpleasant to your eyes? Ugly, poor. These are very common examples. You can write repulsive. When the thing that you're looking at is so disturbing that you cannot even look at it, it becomes repulsive. Revolting, same, something that very strongly triggers you in a bad way. You look at something and it triggers you in a very bad way. That's a revolting, repulsive sight. You hate it, you detest it, that sight. And then you have the word uncouth. Uncouth means someone who is very, very dirty, shabby in appearance and lacks sophistication and refinement. That is the meaning of the word uncouth. So an example of it would be, do not take him to the party. He might embarrass you in public with his uncouth behavior. And then you have the words unrefined. Unrefined is someone who is not sophisticated, who is not very, educated, not well cultivated. And then you have offensive. Something that is offensive is when it offends you, a sight that offends you, that disappoints you, makes you angry. And then you have very simple words like shabby, dull, coarse, coarse meaning rough. She had coarse hands, rough hands. The appearance of her hands were rough, the feel of her hands were rough. And then drab. Drab means something that is very dull and bland, nothing interesting about it. It's very dull, nothing that intrigues you or fascinates you. Now, I'm going to give you some examples of words that are related to smell, words that evoke memory, words that evoke emotions and are related to smell. So pleasant smells, for pleasant smells you can use words like perfumed, fragrant, sweet scented. So you have sweet scented candles, candles that smell very, very sweet when you burn them. So sweet scented, fragrant flowers, aromatic, aromatic food, food can be aromatic, spices can be aromatic, delicious, delicious is also a word that is related to food. And then you also have the word intoxicating. When a particular kind of smell excites you, it's intoxicating. It excites you, it exhilarates you. So that particular smell can be termed as intoxicating smell. He wore an intoxicating perfume. So this is a nice example. Then there's also this word whiff, W-H-I-F-F, whiff, which means a slight smell of something that you get in the air. A very slight smell of something. Suddenly you get that slight smell of something that is close to you in the air. Just a whiff of something. For example, I got a whiff of her rose-scented hair the moment she passed by. I repeat, I got a whiff of her rose-scented hair the moment she passed by. So here the word whiff means a slight, sudden smell of something that you get through the air. And then for unpleasant smells, you can use words like foul. I got a foul smell at the railway station. Reeking. Reeking is when something is rotting, reeking smell. Then you have damp, wet smells, and you can use the words fusty, musty for these kinds of damp, wet smells. Then you also have stale smells. Nauseating smells. Nauseating smell is something that makes you almost want to vomit. Nausea. Nauseating. The word nauseating comes from the word nausea. Nausea means this urge to vomit. You're not feeling well, you're feeling sick and you want to vomit. So any kind of smell that makes you want to vomit is a nauseating smell. You also have putrid smells. Putrid refers to something that is decaying, rotting, decomposing. That kind of smell is putrid smells. And then you have pungent smells. Pungent is different from putrid. Putrid is a decaying, rotting, decomposing smells that you usually get from, animal carcass, animal corpses. But pungent is different. Pungent smells are strong and sharp smells. Very strong, loud, sharp smells are pungent smells. So chemicals have pungent smells, certain types of gases have pungent smells, toxic gases have pungent smells. So, and then there's another word, rancid. Rancid smell, usually used to refer a stale kind of a smell. Stale food can smell rancid. And then there are also other words that you can use for referring to smells, unpleasant smells. Overpowering. So overpowering is a word that can actually be used both in a good and a bad way. So overpowering smell is a very, very strong smell, very strong dominant smell. It can either be good or bad. Then you also have sickly, smelly stench of decay. The sickly, smelly stench of decay. So smelly, sickly, stench, these are all words that are related to decay. And then there are also words like stinking, which means a very bad smell. Stinking, foul, they are kind of the same. And the words like stuffy and odious, these words are usually used when you are trying to refer to smells that you get in congested places where there is no fresh air. A stuffy smell. in congested buses, in congested waiting rooms, you get this stuffy, odious smell. Now, let's jump to words that you can use to describe taste. So, first of all, let's consider good taste. For example, words like delectable. Something that is very, very tasty is delectable. Delicious, once again, yummy, tasty. The word yummy is obviously there. And then you have the word palatable. Palatable is also food that is very appetizing, that is very wholesome. It's palatable food that looks very delicious but also wholesome and nutritious. Then you also have the word mouth watering, tasty, lip smacking food, something that is extremely, extremely delicious. Savory, a food that you can savor for a long period of time. So, cotton candies can be savory, any kind of chocolate can be savory that you can keep in your mouth and savor for a long period of time, that you can relish for a long period of time. Those kinds of foods are savory foods. Then you also have words like spicy, tangy. Tangy is a word that is used to refer to food that is sour in taste but also very tasty. So pickles can be tangy. Pickles are tangy food. So tangy is always not just delicious food. Delicious and tangy, they are very, very, very different words. You cannot write that the hot chocolate she made was very tangy. No, that's going to be very, very wrong. Hot chocolate can be savory, but tangy, pickles are tangy. Anything that is sour in taste is tangy. Then there are words like juicy. Fruits can be juicy. Heavenly, something that tastes heavenly. Gratifying. Gratifying is not exactly a word that you use to describe taste, but it's a word when you're trying to describe a food that really satisfied you. You ate that meal or you ate that particular dish and it really satisfied you a lot. It satisfied your stomach a lot. So you can write, it was a gratifying meal. Gratifying basically means satisfying, deeply satisfying. So if a food satisfies you, if a meal satisfies you, you can use the word gratifying. But gratifying and tasty are different words. Appetizing. Appetizing is also a word you can use for food. Appetizing, the word appetizing comes from the word appetite. Now, what is the meaning of appetite? Appetite is your desire to have food. So if you say I have a high appetite, it means that you always want to have food. You always want to look out for food and have food. You're always hungry. But if you say you have a low appetite, it means that you're not very keen on having food. You're not a foodie. You do not feel hungry all the time. So the word appetizing means when a particular kind of food, appetizer, you eat that food and it makes you all the more hungry, or the sight of that food makes you all the more hungry. So those kinds of foods are appetizing foods. Just like you have appetizers before your meal, starters and appetizers, they are the same thing. They are given to you before your main course so as to trigger your appetite all the more. So the main course is all the more delicious to you. So appetizing is any kind of food that makes you more hungry. And then these are few of the words that you can use to describe bad taste. For example, bland. The dal was bland. Bland meaning no taste at all. It's not salty, it's nothing, it's just bland, a very plain taste. Insipid. Insipid is also the same as bland when it's just tasteless. And then there's unsavory, something that you cannot relish. A kind of food which tastes so bad that you cannot relish it. It's unsavory. Then there's also the word repulsive, which means very, very bad taste, like really bad taste. You're not using the word bland and insipid here, because bland and insipid are neutral words. It suggests tasteless food, not inedible food. It's tasteless. But repulsive is a word that you use to describe food that is disgusting to taste. Okay, not bland. You can still eat bland food, but you cannot eat repulsive tasting food. And then there's also this word unpalatable, food that doesn't look nutritious, that doesn't look healthy at all, that doesn't make you hungry at all. Then foul, obviously foul taste. Tasteless, like I said, bland, insipid, they are also tasteless. Rancid is, again, I use the word rancid when I was talking about words you can use to describe smell. Rancid is a word that you can use to describe stale food. It can be the smell of the stale food or even the taste of stale food. Stale food meaning food that is not fresh. Not fresh. Then there's also the word inedible. Edible is something that you can eat. Inedible is something that you cannot even eat. It is so bad that you cannot even put it in your mouth. You cannot even eat it. It's inedible. The curry she made was inedible. It was completely uneatable, basically. That is what it means. You cannot eat it. It's so bad. Now let's jump to words that you can use to describe sound. Pleasant sounds, soft. Her voice was so soft. Her voice was so pleasant to listen to, so soft voice. Musical. She really had a musical voice. Listening to her voice, it makes you feel like she definitely must be a singer. She had such a musical voice. Sweet, melodious, the music was very sweet, the music was very melodious, the song was very melodious. Melodious means something, a piece of music or a piece of song, one song that has a beautiful melody in it. Then you also have the word lilting. Lilting means a pleasant rising and falling pattern of sounds. The lilting notes of the piano, rising, falling, which is very, very pleasant. So the word lilting is also a very effective word that you can use to describe a sound that has rising and falling notes. For example, piano. And then the word sonorous, but it's different from melodious. Sonorous is a word that is different, very, very different from lilting or melodious. Sonorous means deep and strong in a pleasant way. A sound that is deep and strong in a pleasant way. So you can write it, you can use the word in a sentence like, the English professor had a very deep and sonorous voice. It kept all the students in attention. The English professor had a deep and sonorous voice, so a deep and pleasant, strong voice which echoes through the classroom and keeps everyone in attention. Then there are also musical sounds like rhythmic sounds, soulful sounds. Soulful is basically a sound that makes you feel like your soul's wishes have been satisfied. Such a soulful melody, such a soulful voice she has, such a soulful song she just sang. It enriches your soul, it triggers your soul in a good way, so soulful. Then you also have harmonious. The choir sang harmoniously. When everyone is in harmony, that's a harmonious song. No one is missing a note. No one is singing off key. Everyone is singing perfectly in harmony. So that's harmonious sound. And then there's also a word like tuneful. She played the guitar tunefully. So she played it perfectly all right. It sounded very nice to your ears. All the tunes, all the notes were correct. She played the guitar tunefully. And then let's come to unpleasant sounds. Monotonous. So I've been repeating this word monotonous over and over again. Break the monotony of your essay. Break the monotony of your essay. So what is a monotonous sound? A monotonous sound is a sound that bores you, that makes you tired. You're bored listening to that sound over and over again. So monotonous is a word that you can use to describe sounds that are boring, that makes you fall asleep, that makes you drowsy, it makes you tedious. So those kinds of sounds, monotonous. Then there are harsh sounds which are very unpleasant to your ears. Jarring sounds, jarring. So jarring, basically it shocks you, it jars you, you're shaken by that sound, jarring sound. Then there are piercing sounds. Piercing sounds are very shrill sounds that feels like pins and needles in your ears. Those are piercing sounds. She screamed in a piercing voice. It feels like pins and needles in your ears, the voice. Then there's brassy sound. Brassy meaning loud and unpleasant. Brassy sound. Noisy, shrill, deafening. These are all words you can use to describe unpleasant sounds. Deafening is when it's so noisy, it's so loud. The students maybe in a classroom, they are shouting so loud that it was almost deafening. It's making you deaf, deafening. So loud that it's making you almost deaf. And then there's howling. You know what howling means? Howling of a baby, howling of an animal, the howling winds. Basically, howling is a word that you use when you are trying to describe someone as crying. Crying very, very loudly is howling. So howling baby, howling animal, howling sounds of the wind. And then you have ear splitting. Once again, you feel like you're becoming deaf. Your ears are splitting. Ear splitting sound. Extremely loud, shrill sounds. Raucous. R-A-U-C-O-U-S. Raucous is when someone is being very rude and noisy. So the voice, if you've heard the voice of a peacock, so the voice of a peacock is often described as a raucous voice. It's not pleasant to the ears at all. It's rough, rude, noisy. The raucous voice of a peacock. And then you have sharp sounds. Sharp sounds, once again, they pierce your ears. They are very shrill sounds. And lastly, tumultuous. What a tumultuous welcome. Meaning noisy. Tumultuous, the word tumultuous just means very, very noisy. It's not exactly how a sound sounds, but it's more of a word, a situation that causes a lot of noise. Now let's move on to words that you can use to describe your feelings. Positive feelings. Pleased. I was extremely pleased when he invited me to the party. You were extremely happy. Pleased meaning happy. Cheerful. Cheerful means in a happy mood. She looked very cheerful at the party. She looked very happy at the party. Euphoric. Now this is different from pleased and cheerful. Euphoric means intensely happy. Extremely happy. Euphoria. Extreme intense happiness. It's of a different level altogether. Then you have the word overjoyed. Overjoyed is, as the word suggests, overjoyed. So you're overwhelmed, overjoyed. And then you have the word merry. Merry just translates to happy, just happy. Like you say, Merry Christmas. So may you have a happy Christmas. Excited. Excited is when you're really looking forward to something. You're really thrilled about something. Thrilled, the word thrilled is also there when you want to express some excitement. And then you have words like ecstatic and elated, which are all very close to the word euphoric. So euphoric, ecstatic, elated, these words, they all refer to intense happiness, intense amount of happiness, almost, it's of a different level altogether, that kind of happiness. And then you have the word charged. Charged means when you're extremely motivated to do something, to actually go out there and do something. She was charged up after she received full marks in her maths examination. Some idioms that you can use to describe very positive feelings of happiness are on cloud 9. She was on cloud 9 when she heard her friend from abroad was visiting her. On cloud 9, extremely happy. On top of the world, that also means extremely happy. She was on top of the world when she heard she won the lottery. On top of the world, very, very happy, ecstatic, euphoric. In the seventh heaven, once again, in the seventh heaven means extremely, extremely happy. It's similar to on cloud 9. And then you have the word in high spirits. In high spirits is a little different from all the idioms, all the 3 idioms I just said. In high spirits basically means she was in a very good mood. Someone was in a very good mood, in a charged up mood. She was motivated, she was inspired, in high spirits, in a very, very good, motivated, cheerful kind of a mood. But on cloud 9, on top of the world, in the 7th heaven, these all means immensely, intensely happy. It's a happiness that is altogether on a different level, altogether of a different kind. Overwhelming happiness. And then you have words like astonished means surprised. Astounded means extremely surprised, extremely surprised. It's a stronger word than astonished. Then you have stunned, which also means amazed. And then you have words like startled, dumbstruck. You're struck dumb. Dumbstruck means you cannot speak. You're so surprised. Jaw-dropping. Jaw-dropping means amazing. He gave a jaw-dropping performance. Amazing performance. So I hope you've seen these animations where this word jaw-dropping is very literally portrayed as, someone who is so surprised. A character maybe in a cartoon, that character is so surprised, he just opens his mouth and the jaw just falls to the ground. So that's jaw-dropping. It usually refers to something amazing. And then you have words like captivated. Captivated means immensely attracted, captivated. Satiated. Satiated means very, very satisfied, gratified. Remember, gratified after a good meal? So he was satiated after a good meal. That also works. And then you have emotions, like words that you can use to describe emotions, like moved, touched. The performance moved her. She was touched by the boy's act of kindness. Overwhelmed. Concerned, when you're worried about someone, you're concerned. And then words that you can use to describe a relaxed mood, like chilled out. She was chilled out. Soothing. Soothing, something that is very comforting, something that puts you at ease, is soothing. Tranquil. Tranquil means very calm and quiet, in a serene way. Serene, once again, is a word that you can use to describe a very calm and quiet atmosphere. And then you have words like composed. Composed attitude means she was very calm and controlled in emotions. She had a very composed attitude, very calm and controlled in her emotions. Now let's move on to words that describe negative feelings. Anger, antipathy. Antipathy is enmity. Bitterness. She was very bitter. Disgust, when you're extremely irritated at something. Hostility is also enmity. Resentment, hatred, extreme hatred. Ill will means when you're bearing someone a grudge of some sort. So I bear you no ill will means I have no grudges against you. Malice, when you're acting out of pure malice, when you're functioning on evilness, that's malice. Dislike, when you do not like something. Miff. Miff usually means irritation, annoyance. She was miffed at her attitude. She was irritated, annoyed at her attitude. I was miffed when they did not invite me to the party. I was very annoyed when they did not invite me to the party. Then you have words like cynicism. Cynicism means cynicism is basically the quality of being cynical. So someone who constantly doubts others, someone who constantly doubts the motives of others, that is cynicism. That quality is cynicism. The state of always doubting others, being suspicious, that is cynicism. And someone who is cynical, you might say, she is a very cynical person. She doesn't trust any of her daughter's friends. So she is always suspicious about the intentions of her daughter's friends. Fury, anger, vexation, meaning extreme annoyance. And then you have words like outraged. I was outraged when I saw the man hitting his little boy so badly. Outraged, extremely angry. Indignation. Indignation is when you're not willing to do something. So, indignation. She expressed her indignation when I asked her to write the essay for me. She expressed her unwillingness when I asked her to write the essay for me. So, indignation is a word that goes with unwillingness. And then you have words like perturbed. Perturbed is a better word for the word disturbed. So perturbed, disturbed, they all mean the same thing. Fuming, very, very angry. Literally fumes are coming out of your ears. So fuming and nose. Anxious, very, very worried. Tensed, very, very nervous. Nail biting, when something has a lot of suspense in it. A nail biting movie. So you're always on your toes. It's so suspenseful. Apprehension, when you're very, very worried about the outcome, the after effects, that's apprehension. Apprehensive, so you're not sure about what is going to happen next, so you're very, very worried, very, very anxious, apprehensive. And then you have words like melancholy. Melancholy is a state of gloominess, a state of depression, unhappiness basically. Annoyed, irritated. Then there's also the word livid, which means extremely infuriated. It's a word that is related to anger, intense anger. He was livid when he found out about the theft. Then you also have words like pissed off. Pissed off is a mix of irritation and anger. She was pissed off when she saw her favorite student cheating in the examination. Jealous relates to envy. And then there are words like words that describe tiredness basically. Tired, bored, stressed, lethargic, when you're very, very lazy. And then there are words that are associated with fear and nervousness. Words like frightened, terrified, petrified. Petrified means you're so scared that you cannot move. So there's a spell, petrify, in Harry Potter, if you remember. So that spell is used to freeze people on spot. So that is the meaning of this word, petrified. You're so scared that you're frozen on spot, you cannot move. You cannot make any kind of movements. And then there are words like unsettled. You're so nervous that you're unsettled. You cannot keep calm. Unsettled. Unnerved. Unnerved is also a very nice word. Unnerved, unsettled, they mean the same thing. You cannot be calm. You're restless. Jittery. Once again, unsettled, jittery, fidgety. You're so restless, you're constantly moving. Fidgety. Restless and cross. Cross means annoyed, angry. Words you can use to describe someone in a sad mood. Low. She was feeling low. She was in a depressed sort of a mood. Depressed. Melancholic. Melancholy, I just described what melancholy means. It means a state of gloominess and sadness and depression. Unhappy, it's a very plain word, normal word, unhappy. Sullen, sulky, someone who is constantly frowning, in a bad mood, that's sulky. Sour, embittered, who is very bitter, full of bitterness. Despondent, which means crestfallen, despondent. She was in a very low, despondent mood. Heartbroken, jilted. He was jilted by her lover. He was jilted by his lover. So jilted also means heartbroken, especially in matters of love. And then you have words like distressed. Distressed also means dismayed. And words to use the emotion jealousy, envious, green with envy, malicious. Then you also have other words like, words that convey shame and guilt, like ashamed, embarrassed, guilty, remorseful. Then there are other words like sick, fatigued. Fatigued means extremely tired, dead tired, dog tired. Exhausted, drained, sleepy, knackered. Knackered means fatigued, exhausted, extremely tired. It's the same sense. Worn out. I was worn out after so much exercise. Burned out. All my energy was consumed. Burned out. Drowsy. Drowsy is the feeling of sleepiness. The drowsy gatekeeper dozed on his chair. Nostalgic is when you're thinking of the past with fond memories. You're thinking fondly about the past. Nostalgic. Homesick, when you're away from home and you feel like going back home, when you're craving to go back to your family members or your homeland. So that's homesick, nostalgic. Now here are some similes that you can use to brighten up your writing. As flat as a pancake. As cute as a kitten. As cold as ice. As busy as a bee. As hot as hell. As cool as a cucumber. As innocent as a lamb. As thick as a rake. As black as coal, as white as snow, as brave as a lion, as old as the hills, as ancient as the sun, as easy as shooting a fish in a barrel. So what are similes basically? Any kind of comparison. If you're comparing between two things, any kind of comparison which uses the word as or like, they are similes. So as flat as a pancake, as cute as a kitten, all of these comparisons use the word as, so they are similes. Now similes also include words like. Any kind of comparison you do using the words as and like are similes. So a few examples of similes using the word like are, they fought like cats and dogs. So that's a simile using the word like. The old man slept like a log. So once again, like, it's a simile. Another example would be, that dress fits her perfectly like a glove. So this too is a simile. A few metaphors that you can use. Metaphors are also comparisons, but these comparisons do not use the words as and like. So these are metaphors. Some examples of colorful metaphors that you can use to brighten up your writing. He is the apple of her eye, meaning she adores him. He is everything to her. He is her favorite person. So you express that as, he is the apple of her eye. She showered me with gifts. as though the gifts were raining on me. She showered me with gifts. That's also a metaphor. Here the gifts are being compared to the rain. So loads and loads of gifts. It means she gave me loads and loads of gifts. Another metaphor would be half-baked ideas. Ideas are being compared to cakes. Half-baked ideas. It means not very well thought out plans. Not very well thought out ideas. Then there's also a metaphor which also functions as an idiom, and that is storm in a teacup, which means blowing a small thing out of proportion. A small thing that becomes very, very big. A trivial incident that turns out to be a very big deal. So the friendly conversation turned out to be a storm in a teacup. It started out friendly and then it just reached the stage of explosion. So storm in a teacup. Teacup, a cup of tea, it's very small, but a storm is very big. So storm in a teacup, a big issue out of a small thing. So that's it for this video. Hope you learned a lot of new words, a lot of new similes, metaphors from this video. See you again in the next video.